Welcome back to Innovators with Jane King. I'm David Grasso from GenBiz. Today we're going to debate Medicare for All, a plan being pushed by Democratic presidential candidates Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. Medicare for All would ban private insurance and have the federal government take over health care. Joining me to debate this hot-button topic is Justin Dent, Executive Director of Ethos, Jack Crowe from the National Review, and John Burnett, Advisor to the New York GOP. How are you all doing today?
Good to be here.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay, so is this a good idea? Justin, what do you think about Medicare for All?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there needs to be some change in how healthcare is approached in this country, right? The current system is broken and it's not being fixed anytime soon. Medicare for All is not the answer, right? 60% of people do not want more taxes, particularly for healthcare. And so I think we have to reevaluate how we go about getting more people to access to quality healthcare.
Cool. How about you, Jack?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. At a time when entitlement spending is exploding and none of these candidates have given us a real good idea of how this would be paid for. You know, it's going to require $30 trillion in revenue over the next 10 years. I don't think it's a palatable idea for the American people at this point.
John, pipe dream or realistic?
Well, when you look at the current basket of entitlement programs, they're actually virtually bankrupt, right? So why go down the path of another government system? Let's look at what is actually broken and what's keeping people off the highway of good health care. When you look at situations like either state or federal laws that prohibit people from buying across states, pooling their interests together to go into pools because you know there's strength in numbers. Look, and like my two fellow panelists stated, $32 trillion over 10 years is insane. Right now, we're actually spending so much as far as a percentage of our GDP.
There is some value to being able to have people congregate together, right? That's why employer premiums and employer healthcare plans are so effective, right? Because that's why they get better premiums than on Obamacare, right? For instance, my premiums have gone up astronomically, whereas the rate of increase for employer premiums are going up less than that. So I think that looking across the lines is certainly a prudent thing to do.
How about you, Jack? What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think when we talk about this issue, we need to acknowledge that the price of drugs is a large contributing factor to this overall situation. Allowing healthcare providers to negotiate on a more effective basis with pharmaceutical companies, I think, will go a long way. And I think coming up with some clear controls on the prices that pharmaceutical companies can set might be a kind of middle-of-the-road solution that both sides could get behind.
So most experts agree, John, that this would require the largest tax increase in peacetime history in America. Do you think that's going to be popular? And let's talk about the other elephant in the room, which is, of course, people would lose their insurance. Private insurance would be banned under Medicare for All. Do you think any of this will fly with the general American public?
Well, we've been down this road before, right? If you like your health care, you can keep your health care plan.
Yeah, that didn't work out.
Right. People are actually looking at this new proposal. You know, we've been down here before and we lost our private insurance. They're not actually really positive and don't have a high level of confidence in government healthcare system. When you look at also people with pre-existing conditions, I think there's things on both sides of the aisle that they agree on in terms of pre-existing conditions, in terms of making sure that everyone has access to healthcare. It's just a matter of how they go about doing it. And we all agree that $30 trillion over 10 years is a huge price tag, whether you're a millennial or someone who's in a middle age or a senior. No one likes that price tag.
So Justin, you're a young millennial. What do you think about these tax increases that would really cripple our economy?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's the kind of country that any young person wants to live in, right? We've already been past the bag for all of the entitlement programs that have not had proper and sustainable financing in the past. The last thing that we want is to be told that we're going to be paying for a healthcare system that is being largely taken advantage of by people older than us, while still not having any solvency for when we're of the age that we actually need the healthcare.
And Jack, we're almost out of time, so I wanted to move on to another question. Healthcare is 18% of our economy. Wouldn't this cause the loss of millions of jobs if we instituted a program like Medicare for All?
Yeah, that's right. I think we'd see a massive disruption in the healthcare sector. And I think one thing we really need to think about is when people say, you know, your taxes are going to increase, but your overall costs will go down, there's not a lot of transparency in that. And so people are worried about, will my personal costs, considering my taxes, go up?
So what do you guys propose instead? Because obviously we have a problem. We have a problem with our healthcare system. Every other industrialized country in the world has a socialized healthcare system, or places like Switzerland have a mixed system. Do we move towards covering people who aren't covered rather than reinventing the wheel? Is that a good idea, John?
When you look at these other countries, they're smaller, plus they have a closed system. What do I mean by a closed system? They don't have a robust immigration system like we do, where whoever comes across the border, we actually provide different benefits from A to Z. They have a closed system. So when you have a welfare state, it only functions, fully functions, if it's a closed or monitored system. It's not going to work bringing that system and putting it in America. But we can make some structural changes. Like you mentioned, you know, our healthcare system is 20% of the economy. How are you going to transfer, shutting down private insurance, those jobs, and transfer it over into a government system? Right? Because you have to pay.
Chaotic.
Right. It's going to not only be chaotic, it's not going to be fully functional. People are going to be out of work, but you know what? They'll have access to free healthcare.
Well, unfortunately, gentlemen, we're out of time. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today. And thank you for joining us today for Innovators. We'll be back next week with a new panel.